Hello and welcome. This is Ryzen 4650GE, a 35 watts CPU. It's a bit old now, but I did create a video about Intel's T-Class CPUs. The link is in the description if you are interested. Long story short, AMD's GE class CPU is Intel's T-Class equivalent. These GE class CPUs are hard to come by, and its prices are a bit too high for what they are. They are basically hardware-locked, gimped CPU to use for extreme small form factor cases. Some months ago, I managed to snag this 4650GE for $80 US. It's a decent price, and I went for it. I figured that I'd run a series of tests before locking it up in my collection cabinet. There are three major things I wish to do with this CPU. First of all, I want to run Geekbench on this. While I do not have Ryzen 4600 to compare, I did have it several years ago and did run Geekbench on it, leaving a record. I want to compare the score with 4650GE to see how much of a difference there is. There isn't much of a difference on paper, but 4650GE is heavily restricted in power usage. Even so, it shouldn't show much difference in single thread. It's the multi-core score that's going to make a difference. Secondly, I want to stress test it and see what kind of temperature it's going to show off. Since this CPU is locked to 35 watts, it should be interesting to see how cool it can run even at maximum load. Finally, I want to run two games on it, namely Crusader King 3 and Conan Exiles. In this test, I want to compare the results with Ryzen 3400G and 4300G. The reason for that is because I did create a video comparing those two CPUs a while ago, and I want to see if the extra threads will offer better performance. The link to my previous video for comparing those two CPUs is in the description. The CPU cooler is Tucer A400, which I did review. It's probably overkill for this CPU, but I chose this heatsink specifically due to the ease of installation for AM4 platform. Well, without further ado, let's get on with the first test. The first test is comparing Geekbench results for both 4600G and 4650GE, and the result is here. It's a lot closer than I anticipated. The single thread score is about 5% slower for 4650GE, and the multi-core score is about 7.5% slower. The single core score is within my expectation. The 4650GE did a lot better in the multi-core score, however. Color me surprised. A CPU that has half of TDP has done very well. The second test is a simple stress test of the CPU. I'm going to use the Blender application to render a scene I've created. I'm going to use all threads to push the CPU to maximum and see what kind of temperature it goes up to. And here we are. First of all, it looks like the real TDP is 42 watts instead of 35. That is still half of what most AMD CPUs run at, and it shows. The temperature is not exceeding 50 degrees Celsius. I ran this test for well over 15 minutes, and it remained at 49 degrees until the end. Very nice and cool. Crusader King 3 is one of those games that look like low demanding but actually requires semi-decent GPU. Even AMD's 780MI GPU has a bit of a trouble getting a decent frame rate, and I am getting around 10 to 20 FPS in this. It sounds low, but it is perfectly playable for a game like this where there is no fast action. When comparing with 4300G and 3400G, there isn't really a big difference with the former, but the latter is showing a strong result. That is because 3400G features 11 CU, while the other two have 7 CU. Those extra 4 GPU computing units are making the difference here. However, I must point out that 3400G lacks severely in CPU side. If my memories are correct, it took 15, yes 15, minutes for 3400G to fully load Crusader Kings 3. The 4650GE took like a few minutes. Conan Exiles was only really playable in the low setting with an average FPS of about 25. This is an action game, and therefore anything below 30 FPS is going to be a hard sell. Once I increased the graphic fidelity, it started to struggle. Interestingly, even at Ultra, the FPS didn't go into a single digit. When comparing with the two other CPUs, the results were more or less the same for all three. The slight advantage 3400G had in its GPU computing units was completely gone in this game. To be fair, it did seem to show a slightly better result, maybe by 2 FPS. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things. Overall, nothing to speak about in this specific case. In conclusion, would I use Ryzen 4650GE in 2026? Strictly CPU-wise, this chip has aged. Intel's 12th gen, Alder Lake, is about 30% faster. But that is not really the point of this APU. Yes, this is an APU. Costing just $80, I don't think you are going to find a CPU that has a somewhat capable iGPU. You can play games with this, is what I am trying to say. I also have to remind you that this is a GE CPU with just 35 watts TDP. Its raw performance is within 5% of its fully powered brethren, 4600G. Cooling this chip won't be an issue at all, not to mention lower power requirement. While 42 watts is a bit too much for passive cooling, real quiet, virtually silent, cooling will be possible. At the end of the day, if you are looking to build something fairly unique with a catchy name, this CPU might be what you are looking for. Its full name is Ryzen 5 Pro 4650GE. AMD Pro CPUs are capable of using ECC RAM if that tickles your fancy. Well, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching.